everybody, welcome back. And this is your next training podcast for you that are going through a new training. And this time we're talking about the wonderful topics of needs and false beliefs. And again, we want this training not just to be helpful to you in your personal ministry as a mentor, but helpful to you in your personal life as well. We hope you are just better for the things you are learning and experiencing through this training and through a new ministry. My name is Matt Driggers, and today we have with me Debbie Causey. So Debbie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Now, Debbie, you are the Director of Care at North Point Community Church, but what is a real treat of having you here today is you actually helped write the Renew curriculum. Is that true?
Yeah, we had a lot of fun doing that about 4 years ago, and really love getting to see how it plays out.
Well, I know that a lot of lives have been touched because of the work you and your team have done on this, so we're all better for it and very thankful. Now, we touch into needs. We get into needs in this podcast. Why do we discuss needs here, which seems pretty basic? We all have needs. We need to eat. We need to sleep. So what are we talking about?
Yeah, I mean, the need to eat, the need to sleep, the need for shelter, those are physical needs, and that's not really what we're talking about today. We're talking more about our emotional needs. And the reason we need to talk about that is because we often try to meet our needs our way, and it gets us often stuck in life. So that's what a person is usually coming to Renew for, is to figure out how to get unstuck from their life.
So what are some of the basic needs that we are talking about?
So we kind of categorize them in three big categories. Of course, there's some that fall outside of those categories, but we like to use 3 S's: security, satisfaction, and significance.
Okay, that's whenever you've got alliteration going in church, that seems like something we should pay attention to. So what are these 3 S's again?
Yeah, there's security, satisfaction, and significance. We think that people try to get their needs met around those 3 specifically. And
let me get this straight. So you're saying we all have these needs for security, satisfaction, and significance. That's not the problem.
No.
So what's the problem we're trying to get to?
You know, God created us to have needs, and so it is natural for us to want to fulfill those. The problem comes is, like I said, when we try to meet them ourselves, our way. I really believe that God was meant to meet those needs, and so what happens is we focus on, it might be that we focus on pleasing others so that we can get that need met for security or significance. Or we might try to control others. And where the problem comes in is we can't always control others and we can't always please others. So does it affect our state of being or attitude when that doesn't happen? Yes, it typically does. And that's where we get stuck, because we feel like, I can't be secure, or I can't be satisfied, or I can't feel significance unless I have those things. So they're very tied to some lies that we tell ourselves.
So we're talking about needs. Now, we've talked about why they're in the curriculum, but why do we place it right here? Why are we placing needs at this point in the mentoring process?
Right. Well, the Renew curriculum is really broken up into 2 halves. The first half is all about the problem, figuring out how the care receiver has gotten themselves stuck in life and meeting those needs. And then the second half is the solution. So obviously the needs part is in that first half of the problem.
So this part is this is still in the making the mess part. We're not looking for a bow on the end of it. So, Debbie, you're collecting all these needs. They're filling out lots of worksheets that are trying to identify how your care receiver is meeting their needs, apart from guiding with the 3 S's of security,
satisfaction, and significance.
Right? I have a feeling that's going to come up again. What do we do with this information? We're learning a lot about them. They're learning a lot about themselves. What do we do?
Yeah, well, as Renew mentors, we're just continuing to jot those things down. It's still a part of that history taking. We're still marking down themes. We're still highlighting patterns that will eventually be charted on what we call a flesh diagram. This is a chart we use later on that we will input the information we get from these early sessions into that and then present it to the care receiver.
So we are just gathering, this is part of the case, part of the information. You're going to present it much, much later.
Right.
Well, tied up with these needs is this idea of false beliefs. And we're going to, obviously, you'll get a chance as a mentor in training to discuss this a little more deeper. But let's give an overview of the false beliefs section. False beliefs is going to follow the needs section. Will those two intentionally put next to each other?
Yes, because oftentimes false beliefs stem from what I think about needs. So I was talking earlier about, pleasing others. I must please others is a false belief. But to get security is where the need is tied to that false belief. So they often go hand in hand and stem from each other. So I must please others to be secure would be an example of a false belief that's followed by the need I'm trying to get met by believing that.
So we're going to spend some time helping care receivers understand where these false beliefs came from. Give us a little bit of insight. I think when we were talking offline, we talked about original events and activating events, which sound pretty similar. But let us know about these false beliefs. Where do they come from?
Sure. Well, people often come to Renew because they have a behavior or an emotion that they want to change. They're not necessarily coming to change a belief. But in talking with them about their past, we find, the beliefs really precede the behaviors and emotions. And so then we ask, well, where are these beliefs coming from? We find that far back in their past, they have original events. These are events that happened the first time, and we discovered that they are seeking either pain or pleasure from these things.
So beliefs precede the behaviors or emotions. And then even what helps form those beliefs is something typically from somebody's past.
Right. And that event either caused them pain or it caused them pleasure. If it caused them pain, they'll try to avoid it again in the future. But if it caused them pleasure, they will allow it to happen again. So, for example, I moved around a lot growing up. And I learned early on that when you move, it is very painful. So if you get close to people, you are going to get hurt the next time you move because, you go away and they move on and live their lives. So my original event where my belief system started was that very first move that we made as a family. And as time went on, I came up with this belief that I must be guarded to know I am secure because every time I'd get to know somebody, I'd have to move again. So we believe that those needs and those false beliefs originate from those original events. And then all it takes after that is for an activating event to occur. And an activating event is an event similar to that original event that triggers that belief system and therefore triggers the behaviors and emotions that follow.
So an activating event is similar to that original event. Now, you're the queen of mnemonic devices here today. So we had 3 S's earlier to remember our needs.
Yeah.
But you have a pretty great way of remembering this process and how beliefs coming in. And if you know your alphabet, you understand this way of remembering how beliefs fall in. So give us the ABCs.
Well, this actually originates from Ellis. He talks about A, B, C, D, E in his theoretical framework. But it's an activating event.
By Ellis, we're talking Albert Ellis, who is probably well known in psychotherapy worlds and for his contributions early to the world of therapy.
Right.
So Ellis comes up with ABC, but we're giving you credit today, so run with it.
I'll take it. Yeah. So the A stands for the activating event. Of course, we have the original event, but we don't include that because that's an O, and that wouldn't go with our nice little, A, B, C, D, E. But activating event starts, and then it triggers the belief system, which is B. And then that, therefore, triggers the C, which is a consequence or behavior. We get further down and we have the D, and that is disputing the belief. So that's part of the solution half of Renew. We are later going to replace lies with truth. So that's disputing the belief with the D. And then E is enjoying new circumstances or new consequences or behaviors as a result of believing that truth.
A, B, C, D, E. That sounds like it could show up again on a comp check question or in further discussion. So in your experience, you've worked with, with countless number of care receivers now. What happens as you start to work with someone, they become aware of these false beliefs, they become aware of the needs and how they're meeting them apart from God or in their own devices or in their flesh. What, in your experience, just give us a little bit of hope here. What happens as people start to raise this awareness?
Well, at first you want to instill a little bit of hope in them because you're dealing so much with the problem side of their histories that you want to give them a little bit of hope that they are going to get to some truth here soon, and that they are going to be able to see some life change. But once they do, we often get to see almost a new person emerge if they really take in the concepts of Renew and they learn what their false beliefs are and they learn how they're trying to get their needs met apart from God, and they learn all this. When they figure out how to replace those lies with truth and to lean into God to get those needs met, you see new perspectives from them. You see new attitudes. You see new actions and emotions. It almost looks like a completely new person oftentimes, and it's really exciting to experience that.
And that does speak to the importance, giving them that hope, but also to why the Renew mentoring, it's a process. It's one that is to be followed, and why we really want our care receivers to complete the process. If we just get the first half and we've stirred the pot and haven't given that key word, which I love the way you said, and that is hope. And I think as part of the church, that is our job, is to be giving people hope. And we're fortunate our hope has a name, and that is Jesus Christ. So, Debbie, thanks so much for being here with us today.
Thank you.
And for those of you listening, thanks again for what you do. Thanks for what you're doing and the time you're investing. It makes a difference, and hopefully it makes a difference in your life as well. So thanks for listening. We'll see you around.